Now, bear in mind, actually, before you do enter the game, it asks you, do you want to add another manager? This can be quite confusing sometimes. You might find yourself clicking on add another manager. This is basically like, means, do you want to play one player or do you want to play two player? Is there two of you playing, or do you want to manage two teams at the same time, right? It's generally, you'll click just start playing because you're going to be playing a one player, right? Start playing, unless you want to do the age-old trick of taking over Manchester City as well and buying all of Manchester United's bad players for a lot of money, right? This is the kind of thing like 12-year-olds do. You might be 12, you might be watching this video, that might be a lot of fun to you, and good luck to you. But generally, I don't think my audience are like 12. So here we are, we get the relatively new welcome screens, right? Which will give you a lot of nice information. Interestingly, it tells you that eyebrows have been raised, right? And we spoke a little bit about eyebrows earlier on. Really interesting, good to read. I'm not going to read it all to you right now because it would make for a very boring video. But if you are a beginner, I would suggest reading each page here. So for example, we click next and it comes up with a history of Manchester United, a brief summary of the upcoming season, our facilities, finances, etc. And then a look at our first team. Now, I did mention this database is one that I've slightly manipulated. It's from a video I did earlier on my channel. I've completely sacked all the Man United first team, right? So if you want to check that out, that video is available on the homepage. That's why you can't see Bruno Fernandes or Cristiano Ronaldo in the first 11 here. There were quite interesting results on that one, actually, so it's worth going to watch if you're into that kind of thing. Next up, our director or our chairman or our owner or whatever you want to call it will give us a brief outline of our club vision. And what this is basically the instructions that your boss is giving you. So my boss wants me to play entertaining football, develop players using the youth system, sign players under the age of 23, etc., etc. Now, these can be negotiated every single year, some more successfully than others. So don't worry too much about this right now. You can just hit next. And then at this point, you do get bombarded with all the training goodness, right? Now, again, if you're a beginner, it's definitely worth spending some time and taking all these inductions. So you've got an induction to scouting, an induction to transfers, an induction to training. But if you are like me and you're more of a kind of learning on the job kind of guy, maybe skip them. I don't know. I can't really advise you to skip them, can I? Because you're a beginner. So make sure you take the inductions. It's going to be helpful. You're going to learn things out. Make sure you take them. Finally, my director asks me, do I want to meet the media? You can or you can't. It doesn't make much of a difference. For me, the media side of Football Manager is quite boring. I don't like it. I will always send my assistant to go and do it, which I think is a good thing. You can actually do that, which is great. You get all these questions from journalists, etc. Some people like it. If you're into role-playing games, you might absolutely love that type of thing. It's not for me. Arrange inter-squad friendly is next. That's always a good idea, right? Now, you don't have to take control of the friendlies, and I'll show you a little tip for that in a second. And then finally, arrange a meeting with backroom staff. You can choose to have these tips, which is basically what they are, sent to you weekly, monthly, or fortnightly. That's totally up to you. Fortnightly, if in doubt, go for the middle one. Okay, at this point you can save your game, Dave Jones, Man United, and hit save. In fact, it's actually making me save this game. I don't really want to save it particularly, but okay, I will. And now we are in the actual game, right? This is what the majority of your Football Manager experience is going to look like from day to day. It's your inbox, it's your home screen. So what I will do, right, is I'll talk you through this screen and I'll go through the tabs on the left and briefly go through every single one, how much you should be using it, what to expect from it, and how it can benefit you as a manager, and try and give you the best kind of quick start guide to Football Manager, and the only quick start guide to Football Manager that you're ever going to need. So your inbox here is basically your emails, right? Every day you've got a few emails which you need to read, or you could generally skip past some of them, I guess. But this is the game, right? You can skip as much of the game as you want, or you can read as much of the game as you want, right? It's generally quite a good idea to probably read your emails. Going along the top here, inside the inbox, I wouldn't necessarily pay too much attention to any of these, but you do have your social feed, which is basically like a Twitter simulation. Your news, which again is just a kind of news simulation. League in focus, which I never use. Around the world, which I don't even know what it is. These aren't very important, but I'm sure they could be great. And then at the top of the screen here, you have your general menus. Now, this is the in-game editor, which I've spoken to you about already. This is kind of a search function, I believe, which you can use to search like teams and competitions, etc. This part here, which is a question I get a lot, see where it says inbox, is actually a search bar. Now, I get this question a lot from beginners. How do I search for players? How do I search for teams? You literally click this box, right? That's the search box. You can search Man United and it will come up with all the Man Uniteds in the game, for example. Man United, Mainly United, Man, Tab United, and you can search for people, clubs, nations, competitions, awards, etc. So that's very, very useful and handy. If you didn't know, it might take you some time to figure that out, right? That's the search box because it's a little bit camouflaged. Okay, so on the right-hand side, then you've got help, which I don't use. I guess the tutorials come up there, the inductions, etc. And then you've got your main menu, right? This will be one of the first places I go as a new, when I'm starting a new game. I would go all the way down to preferences because there are a few things which I normally want to change straight away. Now, firstly, you can make the text big or small. This is totally up to you, depending on how you like the game to look. I'll make it slightly smaller here, for example, and then click confirm, and then it'll take a while to load. You'll notice now that the text has gone slightly smaller, which I will change back. I probably prefer it like this as a player of the game, but as a YouTuber creating content, it's far too small for any of you guys to read. So I'll go back to preferences and I'll change that again. This is just wasting my time, isn't it, really? Okay, now I'll go through a few of the other preferences. Skin here, you can choose all sorts of different skins that you can download from the internet, and I believe there are a couple already loaded in. Make sure you got the correct language, obviously, and that you're using the currency that you want to use in-game. Match sounds you can toggle on or off. I generally have them off as a default, and then I can turn them on if I want to. And the graphics capability for your computer can be set for anything you want, but if you put low, it's going to be low, etc. If you put medium, it's going to be medium. Mine's on high. Advanced, then you can change your auto saves. So a 10-file autosave here, rolling autosave, is quite excessive. So this is for my video purposes. Generally, what you would have, or what you would want to have, is a 3-file rolling autosave that saves probably every month or something like that. Now, this will save your game every single month, and will do that 3 times before it starts writing over itself. So you'll only ever have 3 save games on there, and it'll span across 3 months, if that makes sense. So that's probably the default that I would have. Going into general, next I'd probably go to format and make sure that my height was in feet, because this is how I do height in over in sunny Wales here. Temperature in Celsius, wages in weekly, currency in pound, weight in stones, which is, some people shout at me for that, and short distances in yards, etc. This is probably just I probably got like some kind of low-level autism or something, and that's what I like to do. So that's quite important for me. Preferences, I like to do that. And that's a brief overview of the inbox and like your main screen, right? Hitting spacebar, by the way, on your computer will continue the game. That's this big button here. I don't know who still needs to hear that. Oh, I pressed the button by mistake. But some people still, even if they're not a beginner, don't know that that is a thing, and I can't even understand it. Okay, see where it says next unread here at the top right hand corner of the screen? That's the same as the spacebar. It's called a keyboard shortcut. Okay, so we've got home just above inbox, which is kind of an amalgamation of the things you need to know. So your league position, your next fixtures, and some details about your next fixtures, etc. And these are fully customizable with anything you want. You can put available jobs there if you're looking for jobs constantly. So that's quite cool. I mean, you've got contract expiry dates, so you know that when your team's contracts are expiring. So it's really detailed, which is why I think it's important that people do put out beginner guides videos for the newbies out there. Next, you've got squad, right? And this pods up a squad induction box straight away, which I'm going to skip through because this is literally the point of the video. I'm inducting you to the game. I don't want Football Manager to do it because what's the point? It's wasting my time. Here you got players. This is your first team squad. You can sort them by ability. Now, don't forget, this ability is the opinion of your assistant manager. So if your assistant manager is good at judging people's ability, it will be accurate. If they're not good at judging people's ability, it will not be accurate. More on that later. Here you've got a drop-down menu where you can look at all sorts of things. So for example, if I wanted to sort all my players here by their physical attributes, I could click on physical and I can see Hannibal at the top, for example, is pretty average in terms of physical, but my fastest player is Anthony Elanga with an acceleration of 18. Selection info is quite a good one for day-to-day match picking, match teams, etc. And you can see their form over the last 5 games, etc. And appearances and goals and assists, although everything is blank, obviously, at the moment because we played no games. Across the top here, I wouldn't really worry about anything else on there, although squad depth is quite an interesting one. Plan out your team here and take people off. So I got 2 people in centre back, I've got 2 people at right back, I've got 2 people at right centre back, and I've got 2 people covering right back, etc. You can do that across your team just to make sure you've got the right players in the right team, etc. Dynamics. Now, dynamics is quite cool because you've got hierarchy here across the top, which tells you who your team leaders are, who your influential players are. Now, this can cause problems in your team. If your team leader is upset about something, it's definitely worth addressing, and if your influential people are upset about something, it's definitely worth trying to address that. Whereas if your other players are upset about something, it's not so much of an issue. Social groups is a similar kind of thing, and happiness tells you like how happy people are because of certain things, so it goes quite into depth. And team meetings, you can call team meetings, etc. if your squad are unhappy or not performing very well, for example. So that's that. Tactics then, just very, very quickly, because this could be a whole video in itself. You can choose preset tactics by clicking on any one of these side bars. For example, the thumbs up is telling me that Gegenpress is quite suited to the attributes that I have in my team. So that then gives me quite a brief overview and depiction, I guess, of how the team's going to play, which is quite cool. I like it. Then you can go on to choose your formation, right, which tells you the shape that your team are going to have, especially when they haven't got the ball. Again, it'll have a little thumbs up next to the one which suits your team. And that's it. And then the tactics screen turns into almost like a team selection screen where you can select your team down here by scrolling down on the right-hand side and right-clicking, for example. Well, this is how I do it. Anyway, I find my goalkeeper and then I right-click on my goalkeeper. It's probably a quicker way to do it, to be fair. And then I find my right back and then I right-click on my right back. Then my right centre back, then my left centre back, and it just goes in line like that all over the pitch. But I guess this comes with experience, right? What you can also do is hit quick pick here right at the top, where your assistant will pick a team based on a certain set of parameters. You can go pick entire team, you can pick unpick positions only, or you could pick best 11 from the drop down menu. You can also pick a rotated squad, slightly more rotated or fully rotated, again just purely from your assistant. But why would you want to do that? Surely you want to pick your own team. It's one of the main jobs, right, of a football manager, is picking your own team. I generally like to pick my team from the squad screen, so it's a little bit annoying that like when a match day rolls around, it brings you straight to your tactics screen here. Maybe it's a bad habit of mine, but I like to pick my team from the squad side. You can then sort your players by position, etc. You can look at their kind of last 5 games, appearances, goals, etc. form in a little bit more detail than you can on the tactics screen. Yes, you can minimize the shape of the squad here by hitting the arrows button, which does give you a little bit more space, but it's all like jumbled up and stuff. And maybe it's because my text I use like big text, etc. But that's just a pet hate of mine. This is just this is the tactics screen, okay? And there's more to the tactics screen. You can change things by going in possession, which gives you all the instructions for your players when they are in possession. In transition, which gives you all the instructions for your players when you lose the ball. And then out of possession, which gives you all the instructions for your players, or for your team, I should say, when you haven't had the ball for like a significant period of time, obviously. Up the top here, you can save and load tactics. You can load tactics from the internet, etc., or from file paths on your computer by hitting load. And you can also have, I think, up to 3 tactics on the go at any one time. I do always recommend having at least 2 tactics on the go. You can have like a home tactic and an away tactic, and switch between the two quite fluidly. In my experience, that does generally have the best results in terms of across a whole season, right? You do generally want to play slightly differently away from home than you do at home, or at least it does generally tend to be a little bit more successful in my experience. Then you've got the data hub, which is honestly is quite new to me, so I wouldn't feel confident giving you a full rundown on everything. So just to say, like, you can search for things on there. There's XG Then you've got the data hub, which is honestly a very new part of the game. I wouldn't feel confident going into too much detail on the data hub, but you do get to search for things like XG tables and stuff like that, as well as look at detailed reports about teams and players and matches, etc. Next up, you've got staff, which is quite an important screen.